The Lumerian capital stretched across the horizon like a jewel in the darkness of space. Towering spires of crystal shimmered under the light of 3 suns, and starships glided smoothly between the buildings like glowing fish in a liquid sky. Holographic banners floated above the streets announcing festivals, galactic news, and the latest decrees from the Royal Council. Yet in the heart of this dazzling city, a single young woman felt a shadow heavier than all the stars outside. Princess. Alara paced her chamber, her silver robes brushing against the polished floor. The law she had just read in the Galactic Concord weighed on her heart. It was a law centuries old, meant to keep the Lumerian bloodline in line with cosmic traditions. It stated plainly, an heir to the throne must secure a consort of the human species or forfeit the crown. Alara had laughed at first, thinking humans were rare, scattered, and mostly irrelevant to Lumerian politics. But as she studied the star charts and council reports, the grim truth became unavoidable. Without a human consort, her throne could be stripped away, and the rival factions would seize the opportunity to claim power. She leaned over her desk, staring at the image of a young human diplomat projected in hologram. His name was Kieran, and across the galaxy, he was known as a man of wisdom, courage, and cleverness. His successes in interstellar negotiations were impressive. His reputation for quick thinking had made him both respected and feared in council chambers. But would he even answer her plea? Her hands shook as she transmitted a message to the human diplomat's cruiser. She had no time for hesitation. Kieran, she typed quickly. I am Princess Alara of the Lumerian Empire. I require your assistance. Human, please marry me or I will lose my crown. This is urgent. Please respond. The cruiser's communicator blinked, and within moments a calm, measured voice filled her chamber. Princess Alara, Kieran said, his tone courteous but firm. I received your message. May I ask why a human is necessary for your succession? Alara swallowed. It is not just tradition. The law is clear. Without a consort of your species, my claim to the throne is void. And if I lose the crown, the empire could fall into chaos. I have no choice but to ask for your help. There was silence for a moment. Then Kieran's voice returned, thoughtful. You are asking me to marry you, with little knowledge of each other, for the sake of political law. That is unusual. Unusual, yes, Alara admitted, but true. I will not lose my people because of the rigidity of a law they never agreed to. You are the only human I know of who could help me. I beg you to consider it. Kieran's pause felt long, stretching across the empty distance between her chamber and his ship. Finally he said, Very well, Princess. I will come to your capital. But understand this, I do not yet know if I will consent to marriage. I need to understand the situation fully before making such a decision. Relief flooded Alara's chest. Thank you, Kieran. I will await your arrival. The council will be watching. Time is short. Within hours, Kieran's cruiser entered the Lumerian atmosphere, its hull gleaming under the triple suns. The ship descended gracefully to the palace landing platform, causing a small crowd of Lumerian officials to pause in awe. Kieran himself stepped out, tall and composed, his human features striking against the alien backdrop. Dark hair framed, his face and sharp, intelligent eyes scanned the world around him with curiosity and caution. Alara met him at the palace gates. Her heart raced as she approached. Humans were rare in her part of the galaxy, and the very sight of him reminded her why the law demanded a human consort. There was a certain resilience in his posture, a confidence that spoke of a species capable of surviving countless challenges. Princess Alara, Kieran said politely, bowing slightly. You requested my presence. I am here. Thank you, Kieran, she said, her voice steady despite her nerves. I am grateful for your willingness to come. I must warn you, the council is strict. They follow law and tradition without question. If we cannot convince them, I will lose everything. My people, my crown, everything. Kieran studied her, for a long moment noticing the sincerity in her eyes. I see, he said finally. Then we have a problem to solve. Let us speak with the council. Show me these laws and their interpretations. Only then can I make an informed decision. Inside the council chamber, Alara guided Kieran past towering columns adorned with holographic insignias of Lumerian dynasties. The room was filled with alien officials, their forms diverse and strange, some with translucent skin revealing glowing veins, others with limbs arranged in unusual patterns. All of them turned to watch the human who had entered the chamber with the princess. Kieran walked forward confidently, placing himself at the center of the room. He addressed the council in clear, measured tones, explaining that humans were rare, adaptable, and capable of understanding complex diplomacy. He emphasized that marrying a human was not merely a legal requirement, but a strategic advantage for the Empire, as humans had repeatedly demonstrated ingenuity and resilience in unpredictable situations. Some council members whispered among themselves, skeptical of this human interloper, yet others nodded subtly, impressed by the human's calm logic and the clarity of his words. Alara watched him, hope rising in her chest. Perhaps humans were exactly what the galaxy needed to solve problems that alien rules alone could not. The AI Council deliberated, and while Kieran had not yet agreed to marriage, the seeds of possibility were planted. Alara felt a cautious optimism. Humanity, with all its adaptability and courage, might just be the key to saving her crown. Later, alone with Kieran in a quiet palace garden, Alara spoke softly, almost pleadingly. Human, please, think carefully. The Empire's fate rests on this. I cannot do it alone. Kieran looked at her thoughtful. I will consider it, Princess. Humans have survived countless challenges through reason, creativity, and perseverance. I need to see if my abilities can truly help you, and if our goals align. Alara nodded. She knew that time was slipping away, and soon the council would demand a decision. But for now, the first step had been taken. The human had arrived, and for the first time, the distant light of hope seemed to shine brighter than the 3 suns over the Lumerian capital. The cruiser hummed quietly as it sailed through the star-studded void, leaving the Lumerian capital far behind. Outside the reinforced windows, distant nebulae swirled in colors that no human eye could naturally perceive, glowing like liquid gemstones against the darkness. Princess Alara paced the cabin, her silver robes rustling softly. She had tried to maintain calm in front of Kieran, but inside anxiety gnawed at her. Every passing minute brought her closer to losing the throne she had inherited, but worked tirelessly to protect. Kieran, meanwhile, sat in a corner, arms crossed, studying a holographic map of Lumerian space. His dark eyes flicked over trade routes, patrol zones, and ancient defense grids. Though humans were rare in this part of the galaxy, he had learned quickly that adaptability was a human strength. And right now, adaptability might save an empire. You seem tense, Kieran said casually, breaking the silence. Alara stopped pacing and faced him. I am tense, Kieran. My crown, my people, my future. Everything rests on whether you will agree to this marriage. I cannot hide that from you. He nodded slowly. I understand the gravity, but marrying someone solely because of a law is not something humans take lightly. You must realize that, right? I know, she said, lowering her gaze. And I am not asking you to marry me out of personal desire. I am asking for help. Your intellect, your courage, and your humanity. Kieran leaned back, thinking, very well, I will help. But only if we first navigate this as partners, not as strangers forced into a union. I need to understand the law, the council, and the risks involved. Alara's heart lifted. That is all I ask. Together we can find a solution. The first challenge arrived sooner than either expected. As the cruiser entered the outer rim of Lumerian space, a warning signal flashed. Unknown ships approaching, the onboard AI reported. Unregistered vessels detected. Interception probable. Alara's eyes widened. Pirates? Kieran stood and moved to the control panel. Possibly, but their approach is calculated. Someone knows we are coming. Likely rivals to prevent this marriage. Before the princess could react, the cruiser's hull shuddered as small laser fire hit its shields. Kieran quickly assessed the situation. They are lightly armed, but they know our path. They want to stop us before the council can approve anything. Alara's pulse quickened. She had never imagined that helping her would be so dangerous. But Kieran remained calm, analyzing, calculating. He turned to her. Princess, I need access to the ship's auxiliary systems. I have an idea. Do whatever you need, she said, trusting him. Humans always seem to have a knack for solving impossible problems. With fingers flying across holographic controls, Kieran rerouted the cruiser's energy to shields and manipulated the ship's maneuvering thrusters. The pirates' attacks bounced harmlessly off the reinforced hull as Kieran skillfully guided the ship through a series of evasive maneuvers. Alara watched in awe. Humans, you always seem to find a way. He smiled faintly. Survival depends on finding a way when no way seems possible. Within minutes, the pirates realized their attack was futile. Kieran sent a small decoy drone ahead, drawing them into a trap set by the cruisers. The cruiser had just passed the edge of a dense nebula when alarms blared through the cabin. Red lights flashed, casting sharp shadows across the polished interior. Kieran's fingers moved swiftly over the controls, scanning for threats. What is it? Alara asked, gripping the edge of a console. Unknown vessels, Kieran said, voice calm but firm. They're following us, and judging by their patterns, they're waiting for the right moment to strike. Alara felt a chill run down her spine. Rivals? Or pirates? Both, perhaps, Kieran replied. Some factions would rather see you lose your crown than see this marriage happen. Before she could respond, the cruiser was caught in a sudden tractor beam. The vessel shook violently as unseen forces dragged it toward a dark, uncharted space station. Kieran cursed under his breath. They've been waiting here in ambush. We've been lured in. Alara's eyes widened. What do we do? Kieran's mind raced. We follow their lead for now. Any sudden moves could trigger a full assault. Let's see what they want. The cruiser docked forcibly at the station. The airlock opened with a hiss, revealing armed aliens of various species. Their faces masked with helmets, their intentions clear in their rigid posture. Two escorted Kieran and Alara into the station, its corridors dimly lit and metallic, smelling faintly of ozone and machinery. The leader, a tall, imposing alien with green-scaled skin, spoke in harsh tones. Princess Alara of Lumeria, and the human... Kieran, you have trespassed into our territory. Your presence endangers our operations. Kieran stepped forward, standing tall despite being outnumbered. We mean no harm. We are merely traveling to the Lumerian capital. Let your superiors know that any attack would be a breach of galactic law. The alien sneered. We have our orders. You will stay here until we decide your fate. Alara's heart pounded. She glanced at Kieran. The human looked calm, analyzing every detail. The guards, the walls, the locks, even the lighting. She realized humans had a way of seeing possibilities that aliens often overlooked. Hours passed. Kieran and Alara were confined to a stark room with metal walls and no windows. The leader of the faction appeared once, delivering a warning. Human, we can offer you freedom if you leave the princess. Help her, and you both die. Leave her, and we might let you live. Alara's eyes widened. Kieran, what do we do? He crouched near a panel on the wall, inspecting it quietly. This is a test. They want to see if you can trust me, or if I will abandon you. Alara swallowed. I trust you. Kieran nodded. Good. Then we will find a way out. He began examining the room and the ventilation system. Using a small tool hidden in his sleeve, he manipulated wires and sensors with precision. He spoke softly, explaining each step to Alara. These are human skills in action: observation, creativity, patience. If we can improvise, we survive. Minutes later, he had unlocked a small maintenance hatch leading to the ventilation ducts. We can escape through here. Stay close and move carefully. Alara followed, squeezing into the narrow passage. The metal walls pressed against her, but she trusted Kieran completely. He led the way with careful precision, pointing out weak points, timing movements to avoid patrols, and using minimal sound to stay undetected. As they crawled through the ducts, Kieran shared quiet insights about humans and their resilience. We face dangers every day in different forms. It's not about physical strength always. Often, survival is about thinking differently, seeing what others cannot, and acting calmly when fear rises. Alara listened, fascinated. Every word reinforced her growing admiration for him, not just as a potential husband for legal reasons, but as a person of remarkable intellect and courage. Finally, the duct ended above a storage bay. Kieran carefully pried open a grate, lowering them silently into the shadows below. They moved quickly, staying low as guards patrolled the area. Using a combination of stealth and clever misdirection, they navigated through the station until the cruiser came into view. Kieran guided Alara aboard. Once inside, we locked the doors and engaged shields. That should prevent immediate pursuit. Alara exhaled, relief flooding her chest. You saved us. Humans. You truly are extraordinary. Kieran smiled faintly. Humans survive by adapting. We face the impossible and we try until we find a solution. Today is just another example. The cruiser lifted off, leaving the station behind. Outside, the nebula glowed like a curtain of fire and ice, beautiful but treacherous. Alara watched, a new sense of respect growing for the human beside her. She realized that it was not just law that required a human consort. Perhaps humans, with their ingenuity and courage, were meant to stand by her side, not merely as partners in politics, but as partners in survival. During the journey back to safer space, they spoke quietly. Alara shared stories of her youth, the burdens of leadership and the pressures of tradition. Kieran, in turn, shared anecdotes of human perseverance, how humans survived in harsh conditions, solved impossible problems, and built bridges between cultures. Through their conversation, trust grew. Alara realized she could rely on him not only for strength but for wisdom. Kieran saw that she was a ruler worthy of loyalty, someone whose intellect and courage matched her beauty and poise. As the cruiser approached a checkpoint near Lumerian territory, alarms rang again. But this time Kieran had anticipated it. Using quick thinking and the knowledge he had gained of the station's monitoring systems, he guided the cruiser through a safe route. The rivals were thwarted without confrontation, and for the first time, Alara felt a measure of hope that the Council might see the value in this alliance. That night, as stars glittered outside the cabin, Alara turned to Kieran. Human, I know we have much ahead, but I trust you completely, not just for the crown, but because of who you are. Kieran looked out at the stars, thoughtful. Trust is earned, Princess, and humans are capable of remarkable loyalty once it is given. Together we might just change the fate of your empire. Alara smiled faintly. For the first time since discovering the law, she felt the weight on her shoulders lighten. The journey ahead would be dangerous, filled with political intrigue and threats from rival factions, but with Kieran by her side, she believed they could face anything. The stars stretched endlessly before them, a vast expanse of possibilities. And though danger lurked in every corner of the galaxy, one truth shone brighter than any threat. Human ingenuity, courage, and trust could defy even the most impossible odds. The cruiser glided silently through the vast corridors of space, leaving behind the nebula and the failed ambushes. Princess Alara sat quietly, staring at the distant stars, her mind racing. The closer they drew to the Lumerian capital, the more the weight of her responsibilities pressed upon her. Every decision she made now could shape the future of her empire and her life. Kieran, seated nearby, studied the holographic charts again. We need to understand the Council fully, he said. Rivals have allies everywhere. If we are to secure your crown, we must anticipate their moves. Alara nodded, her hands clasped together. I wish I could show you everything. The history of the throne, the legacy of our ancestors, but even I only know parts of it. There are secrets, ancient ones, that even the council hides from ordinary citizens. Kieran leaned forward, intrigued. Secrets? What kind? She hesitated, glancing at him. There was something about humans that inspired trust, a quiet resilience and curiosity that felt different from anything she had experienced with Lumerians or other species. Centuries ago, my family discovered artifacts left behind by humans, on Earth long before interstellar travel was common. They recognized something unique about humans, their creativity, their resilience. Those artifacts were preserved carefully, but few outside the royal line know of them. Kieran's eyes widened slightly. Artifacts? What kind of artifacts? They are devices, tools, writings, ways of thinking and problem-solving. Humans were capable of things that others could not imagine. My ancestors used them to guide our diplomacy and to survive crises that no alien intellect could solve alone. And that is why the law demands a human consort. Humans bring more than numbers or authority. They bring ingenuity. Kieran nodded slowly. I see. That explains why you specifically need a human. It's not just tradition. It's survival. Exactly, she whispered. And now, with rivals plotting against me, I fear that if the council is not convinced of your value, everything could be lost. As the cruiser neared Lumerian space, Kieran began examining the holographic maps of the palace archives. If these artifacts exist, he said, we can use them to strengthen your position. Knowledge is power, Princess. If I can understand them, I can show the council that humans are not just required by law, but essential for the stability of your empire. The palace gates rose before them, gleaming under the light of the suns. They disembarked swiftly, moving through halls that gleamed like liquid silver, guided by silent attendants who whispered greetings and glanced curiously at Kieran. In the archives, the ancient human artifacts awaited. They were small devices, delicate yet intricate, filled with patterns and mechanisms that suggested both artistry and practicality. Scrolls of human writing, symbols and codes lay beside them, hinting at the logical genius of a species that had thrived despite countless challenges. The council chamber was alive with tension. Towering columns glowed faintly as rows of alien representatives filled the room. Each voice rose and clashed like waves against rock. Some supported Princess Alara, others shouted for her removal. The law was clear. Without a human consort, her crown was void. Yet even with Kieran standing beside her, rivals sought to twist the law in their favor. Kieran stood at the center, calm but alert. He had faced political chambers before, though, none so alien, none so ready to tear apart the fate of an empire with a single vote. His sharp human mind raced through arguments, searching for openings the rivals had missed. A counselor with translucent skin slammed his fist against the desk. This human cannot be trusted. He appears suddenly, conveniently, just as the princess risks losing her crown. How do we know he is not a tool of outside powers? Another joined in, their voice sharp. The law states clearly that a human consort is required, yes, but nowhere does it say this human is fit for the role. The council must investigate further before recognizing him. Alara's heart pounded. She looked at Kieran, silently, begging him to find a path through the storm. He gave her a small nod, steady and confident. He stepped forward. His voice, clear and firm, cut through the noise. You question if I am worthy, but worth is not measured in titles or bloodlines. It is measured in actions, in choices made under pressure, and in results that protect lives. I ask you, which among you stood against pirates to protect this empire's ships? Which among you crawled through enemy traps to ensure the princess's survival? I did those things, not for power, but because it was the right thing to do. The chamber quieted. Whispers ran through the council. Ilara's chest swelled with pride. Kieran continued. Humans are rare, yes, but that rarity is strength. We survive by thinking differently, by adapting faster than anyone else. Princess Alara needs a partner who can face chaos and uncertainty. That is what humans bring. That is why this law exists. The rivals countered quickly. One counselor leaned forward, eyes gleaming. Strong words, human, but words are not enough. Do you have proof that your presence benefits the Empire? Show us something beyond stories. Kieran smiled faintly, as if he had expected this. He reached into a small satchel he carried, pulling out a holographic device, one of the human artifacts he had studied in the archives. With a few quick taps, the device projected a series of shimmering patterns across the chamber walls. The design shifted and changed, creating complex maps of alliances, trade flows, and rival plots. This, Kieran explained, is a human tool of analysis, preserved by the royal family. Using it, I have uncovered hidden patterns in trade routes and council decisions. Do you see? Rival factions have been smuggling resources through unmonitored lanes. They fund pirates who attack Lumerian ships. These same factions now oppose the princess, hoping to destabilize the Empire for their gain. Gasps echoed across the chamber. Counselors leaned forward, studying the undeniable evidence. The hologram showed precise data, impossible to ignore. Kieran pressed on. You doubt me? Then doubt the truth you see with your own eyes. Humans uncover patterns because we are trained to look at the unexpected, to notice what others overlook. Without me, this conspiracy might have remained hidden until the Empire was in ruins. With me, you now know the truth. For a moment, silence reigned. The rivals shifted uncomfortably, exposed before the entire council. Some tried to argue, but their words were drowned by the murmurs of others, impressed by the humans' demonstration. Alara stepped forward, her voice steady. You see now why the law is not mere tradition. A human consort is not a weakness, it is strength. With Kieran beside me, I can protect the Empire. Without him, our rivals will tear us apart. But the rivals were not finished. The green-scaled leader of the faction that had once captured them stood. His eyes glowed with fury. Even if what you say is true, the council must vote. Law demands it, and law is above all. The chamber doors closed, sealing the council, inside for deliberation. Alara and Kieran waited outside, the weight of uncertainty pressing down on them. She paced, her silver robes trailing behind her. Kieran, what if they reject us? What if all your brilliance and courage are not enough? He placed a reassuring hand on her arm. Princess, humans don't surrender to fear. We fight with every tool, every word, every idea until the last moment. Whatever happens, we will face it together. Hours passed like lifetimes. Finally, the doors opened. The head of the council stepped out, his voice heavy with authority. The vote was close. Some doubted the human's worth. But the evidence he presented and the strength he demonstrated could not be ignored. He paused, his gaze sweeping over both of them. The council recognizes the human Kieran as consort to Princess Alara. The marriage must take place swiftly to secure the Empire's stability. Relief washed over Alara. Her knees nearly gave way, but she steadied herself. She turned to Kieran, eyes shining. We did it. You did it. Kieran gave a small smile. No, Princess. We did it together. Human ingenuity may light the path, but your courage carried us here. But their victory was fragile. As they walked back toward the palace halls, Alara whispered, This is not the end. Our rivals will not accept defeat easily. They will try again. And the marriage? It must happen soon, or the Empire will fall into chaos once more. Kieran nodded, his eyes sharp with resolve. Then let them try. Humans are at their strongest when challenged. If they come again, we'll outthink them, outmaneuver them, and show them why humanity survives when others falter. The stars above the capital glimmered like watchful eyes. The council had spoken, but the future was still uncertain. One last step remained, the marriage itself, the binding that would secure the throne and mark the beginning of a new age. And those shadows gathered, Princess Alara no longer felt alone. At her side was a human whose courage and intellect had already changed the fate of her empire. Together, they would face whatever storms lay ahead. The palace bells rang across the shining capital of Lumeris Prime. Their deep tones echoed through towers of crystal and across sky lanes filled with hovering ships. It was the day the Empire would change forever, the day of the marriage between Princess Elara and the human Kirin. Every street was alive with color. Lumerians draped their homes in silver banners and alien allies gathered from across the stars. Yet beneath the celebration, tension lingered. Some still whispered doubts about a human sitting beside the Lumerian throne. Others feared the rivals, who had already tried to topple the princess. Kirin stood quietly in his chamber, staring out at the alien city. He wore ceremonial robes tailored for him, blending human design with Lumerian tradition. The silver fabric shimmered with faint blue light, the crest of Elara's house embroidered across his chest. He had never imagined himself in such a place, standing on the edge of history. Behind him, his old friend Captain Reese entered. The human officer had arrived weeks ago after hearing of Kirin's strange role in galactic politics. "You're about to marry into the most powerful empire in this sector," Reese said with a grin. "And you still look like you'd rather face pirates than a wedding." Kirin chuckled softly. "At least pirates are predictable. This is new." Reese clapped him on the shoulder. "New doesn't scare you. It never has. Just remember, you're not doing this for yourself. You're doing it for her, and for a whole empire that needs stability." Across the palace, Elara prepared in her own chamber. Attendants wove her silver hair into intricate braids, each one bound with glowing stones of power, symbols of her lineage. Her gown was a living fabric, flowing like water and catching the light of 1,000 hues. Yet even in such majesty, her hands trembled. She dismissed her attendants for a moment and walked to the balcony. Her eyes searched the sky, filled with arriving ships and flashing signals of celebration. She whispered to herself, "This is more than a wedding. This is survival. But I am not afraid, not anymore." The grand hall of coronations was filled with representatives from across the galaxy. The council sat in their places of honor, watching closely. Some faces carried approval, others suspicion. The air itself felt charged, as if every breath held the weight of history. When Kirin entered, whispers spread through the crowd. The sight of a human walking toward the throne was shocking to many. He walked with steady steps, his eyes fixed on Elara as she joined him at the altar of light. The High Speaker of the Council raised his voice. "By galactic law and by the traditions of the Lumerian crown, this union will decide the future of the Empire. Do you, Princess Elara, accept this human as your consort and equal?" Elara's voice was clear and strong. "I do. Not by law alone, but by choice. For he has stood by me in trial, in danger, and in truth." The speaker turned to Kirin. "And do you, human Kirin, accept this role, knowing it binds you not only to her but to the fate of an empire?" Kirin lifted his chin. "I do. Because I believe in her, and I believe in what we can build together. Humanity has always survived by daring to take steps others feared. This is one such step." The hall filled with a hum as energy flowed through the altar. Light wrapped around them both, binding them in the sacred bond recognized across the galaxy. The crown of Lumeris descended slowly from above, its jewels glowing brighter than the stars outside. Elara took the crown and